This is Kat Sturtz from rockingyourpath.com with another episode of Fast Action Fridays. Today, my special guest is someone whose last name I tend to always screw up, so she's going to correct me if I get it wrong today, but it's Reverend Anne Presuel.
Close enough.
Close enough. Yay. Now, Anne and I have never met in person, though we've almost done it a few times. I'm up in Michigan. She's down in Florida, but we have been online business friends for longer than either of us can remember.
Yeah, it's been a while.
We are both highly intuitive. We both deal with business and helping people improve their business. And one of the things we use is our intuition to do that, as well as tapping, EFT, emotional freedom techniques, Reiki. We both love all of the energy modalities, but today we are talking about how to use your intuition to improve your business life and your business bottom line, which is where it comes down to. Thanks so much for joining us today, Anne. Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I'm honored. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. So I started my own intuition journey 20 years ago, excuse me, in 2000. And when I went through this really big dark night of the soul period in my life, and out of that, I had a healer who helped me. And our therapist at that time said, your intuition saved your daughter's life. And I was like, I have what? into what?
So I had no idea what she was talking about. Have it.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was only for the special ones, people who, and about a year and a half later, after, it wasn't even that long. It was 9 months later, actually, after the majority of the trauma had passed. But the fallout was now taking place. I'd been on adrenaline for months, and now I was like, and I walked into a bookstore and I found this book that touched my life. And she talked about how she had developed her own intuition in her adult life. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the book, but it was life-changing. And from that point on, I began to really look at how do you develop intuition? And I studied it in depth. And I began to understand subtle energy and became a Reiki, Reiki master through it's just this long journey. But it wasn't until 2.5 years after that initial trauma that I discovered tapping, that I really learned it, and it healed me of that trauma emotionally. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I'd been given the keys to the kingdom at that point in time, because I was able to then ground myself into my body, right? And really get clear about who I was and not be in reaction to, and not be carrying around this weight from this awful, awful journey that I'd been through. So it was this process, of awakening. And I discovered that I wanted to be a healer. Like it was within me. That was the part that awoke, right? That intuition, that connection with the divine, that awareness of who I was in the world and how I could bring my work to the world in a whole new way. Mm-hmm. And that was what started. And so fast forward to 2008, and I got divorced, got remarried, came down here to Florida and went to seminary, and then was like, well, now what do I do? How do I build a business? And if you remember 2008, right? Big stock market crash, and everybody like lost all this money and all of that. So I was lost. And someone came up to me. I was teaching a tapping class. And someone came up to me and said, you don't have to do it this way. If we pass out the love offering, and people are like, oh, here's $2, right? You can't make a living with that. And she said, you can do this online. I was like, what? How do you do that? Right. So that was this awakening for my business of how the business structure began then. And I never looked back. I started it and kept it going. And I absolutely love an online business because I can take it with me wherever I go. If I ever have to move again, which I don't think I will now. At this point, we're here, you know.
What we love most about our online businesses is the flexibility and freedom.
Yes.
It gives us
all of that.
For both of us,
imagine.
taking care of family members. Our journeys have so many points that are very similar, yet the timelines are a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't remember a time I wasn't intuitive, but I do remember a time when I was about 9 thinking not everybody is willing to talk about their intuition, or I realized I couldn't talk about it as openly as I probably did as a little bit younger. And I remember telling myself that someday I'm going to study it. So I just acknowledged it. Once you acknowledge your intuition, which you eventually did, you can't ignore it anymore. You can ignore it. And I think when you mentioned before that a lot of people think they're not intuitive.
Yeah.
I believe everybody's intuitive. I believe we're born with intuition as one of our regular senses. And around between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's drummed out of us because we're told we're lying if we come up with these wonderful stories that used to be cute to tell. Mm-hmm. And so we learn to hide it. And eventually we learn to discount it and disbelieve it. So it takes often something monumental in our little lives to say, hey, we're here. We can help.
Yeah.
And I do remember the person who changed that for me, and it was Sonia Choquette and her psychic pathway. But she came into my life when I woke from a coma after being revived 3 times after our traumatic incident giving birth, saying, okay, I'm ready. I mean, the first voice in my head when I came out of the coma was, it's time to do something with your intuition. Mm. So I went looking for a teacher, and her program came right in. So you and I think the main message is do not discount this wonderful gift that's in us. Yeah. So you may,
and I
may
think
not.
Actually, I think that the one thing that you said is so important, and that is that it shows up differently for all of us.
Yes.
Like my husband is one of the most intuitive people I know, but his comes in so differently than mine. And it took me a while to recognize, oh, that's his intuition. And when I began to recognize it and then trust it, I trust his very much. And I would say to him, well, how do you know? He'd go, I don't know. I just know. I'm like, yeah, but how? I don't know. I just know. And so we go on this circular conversation. How do you know? I don't know. I just know. Right. And it was infuriating because I was just like, but that doesn't make any sense. Right. Until I realized he's claircognitive, which is knowing, clear knowing. And so he just knows. And I'm like, okay, I trust it.
Yeah.
So we have these conversations a lot now. Well, what does your intuition say? And we ask each other sometimes when we're faced with something, what does your intuition say about that? And sometimes, and if it says no, I'm like, okay. And it could be just a timing thing, not a no forever thing, just a no, not right now thing.
Right. Exactly.
Intuition is fascinating, and learning to trust it and recognize how yours speaks to you is huge. It's huge.
And step 1 is acknowledging that it exists. Whether you call it that gut feeling in your tummy, or a constriction of the heart, or a sign or symbol that repeats itself that you've tied to mean a certain thing. Yeah. It's there. Yeah. Now I want to tell
if
people
a song keeps replaying in your head.
Yeah.
And you've asked a question maybe yesterday or last week, or you've been thinking about an issue, and then the song comes in and starts replaying in your head. That's the sign. That it's coming to you. Listen to the words in that song in your head. Mm-hmm. It's so many ways your intuition speaks to you, but it will talk to you a lot.
You just brought up another thing that's important with intuition is to ask for help. ask the intuition for help, and
Yes.
then believe it's coming.
Yes.
Maybe
Number two, that's the hardest
open
part,
to
right?
the answer.
I think that's like hands down the hardest thing, because like, help me, please. And then like, where is it? It's not here yet. Right. And then believing that it's coming is hands down one of the hardest pieces.
Like it is.
If you can just sink into and trust. That was a message I got yesterday, because my life has just completely blown up in the last month and a half. Right. My father moved in with me, my 86-year-old father, whom I hadn't seen in 15 years. Thank you very much. Like, he came with a suitcase and like, Dad, you can't go home. Like, that was how it was. And he said, okay, I'll stay. And I'm like, wait, what? And then 4 weeks ago, yesterday, my beloved assistant, who's been with me for 10 years, died of COVID.
Yeah.
And so like, my life and my business has just like gone, wait, what's going on here? And so I'm asking for help, right? And the message I got yesterday is trust us. We've got your back. Trust that we will see you through this. You're fine. Just trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's hard. Come on.
It is hard, but I see so many people struggle, and you see it on their face. You see it in their behavior.
Yeah.
You hear it in their words. I can't do this. I'll never be able to get over this. It's like you're bringing that into fruition.
It's tapping.
You think exactly. And tapping does not change the past. Tapping does not make what happened in the past right or wrong. All tapping does is help you deal emotionally, so you react differently to what happened. Yeah. So you can move forward. It's not about everybody else.
Well, and actually, you're right. And that's with like personal and all of that, and then the beliefs you have. But when it comes to your business, so for example, I got to send out an email. I don't know what to say. What am I going to do? I don't know what to say. I'm supposed to write it this way. And when I get in that situation, and believe me, I get into it all the time. I'm like, okay, I just don't know what to say. Like, let me just see. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. But you know what? It's going to come to me. I'm going to let it come to me. I'm going to let it come to me. I'm asking for help. I'm going to let it come. I believe it'll come. It's come before. Why would it not come now? Okay. I don't know what to say, but it'll show up. It'll show up. Right. And I'll tell you, I maybe do this like twice. I don't do it a lot. And then I just like relax and trust and believe that the answer will come. Right.
And get yourself
and it does.
And you help things along by sitting down in your office chair in front of your computer or
open
pad
the computer,
paper.
yes, like, and then you start typing what comes to you, and I promise you that will lead to what you're actually wanting to write about. Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't magically appear in the whole written form, and right now, I'm going to write about this topic. It's just let it flow and open up, and you'll get inspired as you write. And then you get the answer, and you write something that is just spot on, exactly what someone needed to hear. That was nowhere in your consciousness, perhaps an hour before. Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. What else do you recommend? Before you answer that, I want to let people know that you do have a freebie, and it's called the Divine Money Kit. Yeah. And people watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description. You can go check that out. And on the blog post, there'll be a link to download that. I love that, the Divine Money Kit. It's a training and ebook, a tapping MP3, wealth affirmations, because how we speak to ourselves is really important. So that's there. We've both talked about traumas in our life, and I know that on her website and in her Facebook group, and we'll have that link there as well, you can learn more about this. So whether we bring that up specifically in the rest of our time together,
don't worry about it. You can get the backstory later. Right now,
Can I show the book real quick?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Let me just show you.
First
I
new book.
wrote a book about it. It's called A Divinely Intuitive Awakening, right? And you can find that at Amazon.
Yes.
And it just came out a week before my assistant.
And this is being recorded
timing.
on May 10th, 2021.
Yes.
So if you go to the blog post, there'll be a direct link to it, no matter when you happen to be watching this in the future as well.
Thank you.
All right.
And so here's, I think, number one, do the tapping like I just modeled for you. And you can find YouTube videos on this, and probably Kat has stuff on that. Do the tapping. If you have a question on, like, I don't know, I don't know what to say, or I don't know what to do next. Write down your options and ask yourself, what's bringing me the most joy, the most light? What would I really want to do here? So that would be one suggestion, because that whatever is bringing you the most joy and the most light is the thing that will guide you and will inspire you and pull you forward, right? That's one thing. I would say one of my can I do a favorite intuition technique?
Absolutely.
Okay. I get this is why I don't do Zoom, because I get wiggly. I get excited. I get wiggly. Okay. Say you have a question about, do I take this step or take this step or take this step? Maybe you have three, and you're wondering which one is the right next thing for you to do. Close your eyes and get centered. Take a deep breath in and imagine in front of you, like just stretched out in front of you, is a road. And the road goes to the right, to the left. If you have two options, to the right, or say you're trying to buy a house and you're trying to decide which one. All right. One house is this way, one house is that. Or do we stay here or do we move? Right? Something like that. If you have a third option, put the road straight in front. So you've got three options. Assign a direction to each of those roads. Assign an option to each of those directions, right? Stay in the house, buy this house, whatever, just making it up. And then get close, get quiet, and ask yourself which one of these choices is going to the most contribution to me, to my life, to my business, to my family, right? Whatever those options are. Which one brings me the most joy? What is the right next step for us? What is the right next? Guide me, right? And just wait and watch or hear. One of those roads will light up. One of those roads will, like, sometimes I've seen like one road go wavy. It's sort of like, here we go. It just tells me where to go. If you're very auditory, you're clairaudient, you might see birds singing or hear birds singing off to your right versus your left, or off to your left versus your right. If you are clairaudient, you'll just know which road to take. If claircognizant, you'll know which road to take. That's clear thinking, or clear thinking. Clairvoyant is clear vision. You'll see, like you may see flowers sprout up along the road, right? Something will happen. Trust it. And if you just doubt it, do it again. Like, ask yourself and do it again. Especially if you're not grounded. If you're grounded, you'll get the answer. But if you're not grounded, like just present, here now, grounded.
Yep. And if you take a step in any of those directions, gauge what the step felt like. It's like, oh, I don't want to go that way.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I remember telling you something when you were looking for your house, for ideas about what to look for. One of the things that has worked for me in the past that I have taught is go in the door of the prospective house, go through the door that you are most likely to use
I remember
if
this.
you own that house already, and gauge how you feel walking in. Because if you don't like that, you're not going to be happy with that house.
Yes.
I know the minute we walked into this house through the garage door, and that was 21 years ago, this place felt like home from the moment. And there was nothing but a wall and a stairway down to the basement. It was like nobody would have said, oh, this is a great, beautiful house. But stepping into the house felt like home. And none of the other places we looked at came close to that. And we've been perfectly happy here ever since, you know.
Are you clairsentient?
Yes. I'm clairaudient too.
Me too, both of them. And that is why that worked for you.
Yeah, the feeling.
Yep, the feeling.
Yep.
Your body knew.
Yep, my body knows.
You resonated with it. And when we walked into this house, I had that same feeling, right? I'm home. And it felt, I asked the house, are you a contribution to our lives? And the answer was yes. It was like so beyond. Whereas other houses had been yes, and like this one house I fell in love with in the beginning, it was these yes and,
or yes, but
yes, we will be a contribution, and I'm can you keep me in the style to which I am accustomed, right? It was a very expensive house, and I was and it turned out we didn't get it, and we are grateful we didn't get it, and right, all of those things. This one was perfect beyond, in all levels, in all ways.
Right. And this doesn't mean we ignore those other practical things you need to do. Can I afford this house?
Yes.
Is it in a practical location for me? We're not ignoring all of those things.
No.
We're saying that once you've narrowed it down and you're looking for that place and you're ready to make that decision, and even during that process, use your intuition to help you. EFT helps us with understanding what's going on inside us in our energy field, and tapping smooths out all of the little zits and hiccups. It's like having a broken wire in a lamp cord.
Yes.
And we want the light to shine bright, not be flickering when we make that choice. So, yeah. We have time for one more great tip about using intuition in our businesses. Got one?
Let me just talk about how I use my intuition.
Perfect.
It is, I journal a lot. I used to journal during that dark night of the soul period. Then life got, happy, and I didn't really feel like I needed as much. When I started my business, it was always to-do lists, right? I've come back to journaling now again, for me, for the business, for life, whatever. And I think that when you journal, it's like The Artist's Way. If you've read The Artist's Way,
by Julie Cameron.
Yes, she talks about the morning pages, right? Just getting it out so that you can get what's behind it. And some people, it's not going to be a fit. I get it. For me, it's a fit, and it's my quiet time to clear out the to-do lists, which have grown significantly in the last month and a half, 2 months. It allows me to get quiet to hear what's behind and what I need to hear to access my intuition. Because if you don't get quiet, you can't access. So you're whether it's journaling for you, or whether it's exercising or yoga. My daughter does yoga and meditation, and that is wonderful for her. It's exactly the right fit. She doesn't journal. Each person is different, but you have to finding a way to get quiet so that you can access the downloads and recognize them is, to me, hands down the most important thing. I said something about my quiet time and being able to then receive the downloads last week to one of my clients. And she said, I never thought about that. She goes, that's what's missing for me. I'm not able to get myself quiet so I can receive them.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just depends on how you like to do that, getting quiet. It could be a bath time, on a regular basis. It could be, like I said, a morning
A walk or gardening.
Gardening, absolutely gardening.
I am not a journalist per se, a journal maker, but I am a note taker. There's just something that happens when you put pen to paper. And it took me a while to realize that it was me talking to myself. It was allowing my intuition to talk to me. So a lot of the notes I never need to read again. So I have an organization method so I can deal with those so they don't become overwhelming, which would kind of defeat the purpose. But in the same way the journaling is for you, it's a way of talking to ourselves, which is what our intuition is doing, whether it comes to us
and receiving direction
or feeling or just knowing.
To me, it's a way of getting quiet so I can receive. If which again, bringing back to the asking, right? It's receiving direction and trusting, because in allowing yourself to get quiet, you then can receive those downloads. You can receive that information.
And I think there are a lot of people who are struggling out there with overwhelm or frustration or decision fatigue. They stay so busy because they're afraid of what answer might come.
Oh, yeah, I can get that.
It's like, what if I don't like the answer? Oh, what if you do?
You have the option to say no, right?
Right.
You don't have to go with it.
No, right? Absolutely not. Well, thank you so much for being here with me again. You are a repeat Fast Action Friday guest. I will also have a link to your original one. Tell everybody the name of your book again.
Okay. A Divinely Intuitive Awakening: How Divine Connection Healed Unspeakable Trauma and Created a Life of Love, Magic, and Miracles.
And it really did. She's living proof.
It's really true. It's really true. Yeah. I mean, it was a rough go for a while. So reading it
took you a long time to write it too. I mean,
so here's where tapping comes in, right? So I started it, and I'd go back to it, and it would just be hard. It was hard to write. So finally I got a book coach, and we did a proposal, and that took us a while to do. And I sent it out and nothing happened. So then I was like, a year went by, and I sent it to like agents, right? A year went by, and and I said, you know what, I'm just going to write this because a family member died. And I thought, if I were to die, what would be the one thing I would regret not having done? And it was the book. So I hired this book coach, and we started writing. And 2 years later, it came into being. But I'd be like, I didn't know. I would wiggle. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to remember. I didn't want to write about it and create a storyline about what had happened that was so painful. And I would tap, and I'd be like, I don't know, I don't know what's next. I don't know what to say about this. And like, I would just tap. Say, okay, Charlotte, hold on. Let me tap. Right. The answer would come. And then we'd have a very successful session. Excuse me. I need to call. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. Well, we're going to end this episode of Fast Action Friday with the most important message in the Fast Action tip: to ask and trust your intuition for help. It's there. Use it. It's free. And the more you use it, the better you will become at interpreting the signs. I'm not sure what you say about it, Anne. I tell people, and my firm belief is, intuition is 100% correct across the board. Our interpretation of what we receive can be off. And you have to allow for that at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
All right.
It's the interpretation. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
This is Kat Sturtz from Fast Action Fridays and rockingyourpath.com, reminding you to join me again when I have another great guest. Remember to keep rocking your unique path to success. Bye-bye.
Bye.